He walked home with 2 heavy grocery bags in his hands. The plastic handles cut into his fingers, but he did not mind. It was evening, and the streetlights buzzed softly above him. The sky was deep blue, turning slowly into night. His name was Daniel, and his life was simple. Work, home, sleep. He did not think anything strange would ever happen to him, but tonight felt different. As he walked, he had a strange feeling that someone was watching him, not in an angry way, not in a loud way. It was quiet, like a whisper he could not hear. He stopped and looked around. The street behind him was empty. The wind moved an old paper cup across the road. Everything looked normal, but his heart did not agree. He took a slow breath and kept walking. Then he saw her. At first, he thought she was just a child hiding behind a mailbox, but when she raised her head, he knew she was not human. Her eyes were too big, shining softly like stars in water. Her skin had faint glowing lines that pulsed slowly, as if drawn by light under the surface. She wore torn clothing that looked burned at the edges, and she hugged her knees, like she was trying to become smaller than she already was. She was staring straight at his grocery bags. Not at his face, not at his hands, only at the food inside them. Daniel stopped walking. The world seemed to hold its breath with him. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently. The little alien girl did not answer. She blinked slowly, and he could see fear in her eyes, deep and old, like fear that had been living there for days, maybe weeks. She looked ready to run. She looked ready to cry. She looked so tired that even running might not be possible. He knelt down so he would not look tall and scary. "It's all right," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." She opened her mouth as if trying to speak, but no words came. Instead, her gaze moved again to the grocery bags: bread, fruit, milk. Simple things, normal human food. Things she clearly wanted, but did not dare ask for. Then she whispered, "Daniel." He froze. He did not tell her his name. His heart started beating louder inside his chest. He looked around again. No one else was there. No friends hiding in the bushes. No camera. No trick. Just this small, shaking alien girl who somehow knew who he was. "How do you know my name?" he asked. She swallowed. Her voice was very soft, like it hurt to speak. "Please," she said, "do not let them find me." Them. The word hung in the air like cold smoke. He heard something then. A sound from the alley nearby, not human steps. Heavy metal steps. Slow, careful, listening. The alien girl's eyes widened, and she pressed herself tighter against the mailbox. Her glowing lines flickered faster, like fear made of light. "They are coming," she whispered. Daniel did not know who she was. He did not know what danger she brought. He did not know why a child from the stars sat alone on his street. But he knew the look of fear. He had seen lost children before. He had seen people who needed help and had nobody to ask. He also knew that if he walked away now, that look would never leave his mind. He placed one grocery bag slowly on the ground and reached into the other. He pulled out an apple and held it out toward her. She stared at it like it was the sun. Her small hands shook as she took it, as if she was afraid it would disappear. She bit into it carefully, almost lovingly. Juice ran down her fingers, and she closed her eyes for a second, like the simple taste of food was the best thing in the universe. "Thank you," she whispered. The metal footsteps grew louder. Daniel looked toward the dark alley. He could see a faint red light moving on the brick walls, like a scanner searching, hunting. He did not know who they were, but he knew one thing very clearly: they were not friendly. He turned back to the girl. "What's your name?" he asked. She shook her head. "Names are dangerous now," she said. "But I know you. I saw your kindness in the lights." He did not understand what that meant. He did not have time to ask. The red light swept across the street. The sound of metal feet stopped. Right outside the alley. The alien girl's glowing lines dimmed as she held her breath. Daniel's life had always been simple. Tonight, it stopped being simple forever. The red light moved slowly across the street, like the eye of some giant insect. Daniel did not move. The little alien girl did not move. Even the wind seemed to stop so it would not make a sound. The metal footsteps were close now, heavy and cold, like machines that had learned how to walk. Daniel spoke in a whisper. "Come on this way." He did not know why he said it. He just knew she could not stay there. He picked up his grocery bags with one hand and gently took her small wrist with the other. Her skin was warm and strange, smooth like glass, but alive. She followed without a sound. He guided her behind a big trash container near the wall. The smell was bad, but it was dark. And darkness was their friend right now. The red light grew brighter. He risked a tiny look from behind. The trash container. They were not human. 3 tall figures walked out from the alley. Their bodies were covered in dark metal armor, sharp at the edges like knives. Their faces were hidden behind masks with glowing red lines. Strange symbols moved across their chest plates, changing like living letters. Each of them held a long device that was not a gun he recognized, but it looked dangerous just the same. The little alien girl squeezed his sleeve. "They are hunters," she breathed. "They do not stop." One of the armored beings spoke in a deep, echoing voice. The language was not Earth language, but Daniel somehow understood the feeling inside the sound. It was a voice that did not care about children. A voice that only cared about orders. A small round drone floated beside them, shining a narrow red beam across the street. When the beam hit the ground, it left glowing dust for a second, reading something invisible. The hunters followed the trail slowly. Daniel realized with a shock what it was following. She had left some kind of energy trace behind when she ran. The girl trembled. The faint lines under her skin glowed faster, then dimmed as she tried to control them. Daniel could feel her fear like heat. She pressed her forehead to her knees, trying to make her light vanish. One hunter turned its head sharply toward the trash container. Daniel's heart almost stopped. The hunter stepped closer. Metal feet clicked on the pavement. The red light crawled over the trash container, then toward the shadow where they hid. Daniel held his breath until his chest hurt. He could hear his own pulse in his ears. If the light touched them, it would be over. The drone made a small sound, like a confused insect. Then the light turned away. A loud voice came from one of the hunters, firm and angry. The group moved farther down the street, following another direction. Their steps faded slowly into the night, like thunder walking away. Daniel finally let out a breath he did not know he was still holding. The little alien girl lifted her head. Her eyes were wet but steady. She did not cry. She just looked very tired, like someone who had been running for far too long. "Who are they?" Daniel asked softly. She took a moment before answering. "They are collectors. They take people. Like me, they work for the ones who think minds are tools." "Tools?" Daniel repeated. She nodded. "I can talk to machines without touching them." She looked ashamed, like she had done something wrong. "They want to use me to break things, to open things, to hurt things." Daniel felt anger rise in his chest, not wild anger. Slow anger, heavy anger. The kind that came when someone bullied a child and expected nobody to care. "How long have you been hiding?" he asked. 2 days on your world," she said. "Before that, inside a ship, cold halls, bright lights. Voices that called me asset." She hugged herself tighter. "I did not want to be asset. I wanted to be child." Those simple words hit him harder than he expected. He looked at her carefully. She was small, she was lost, she was hunted. And yet, she had crossed stars. She had escaped machines and cages. There was strength in her fear. Her glowing lines suddenly flickered again. She pressed her hand to her head. "What's wrong?" he asked. "My mind is loud," she whispered. "They are searching. I can feel them. If I glow too much, they will see me again." Daniel made a decision before his brain had time to argue. "My place is near," he said. "You can rest there. Just for tonight." She stared at him like she could not believe a human would say that. "It is dangerous for you," she warned. He gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe, but leaving you here is worse." He picked up his grocery bags again and led her through side streets, peeping to the shadows. The city lights flickered once as they walked, like the world shivered. Somewhere far above, a dark shape moved across the clouds, the hunter's ship. Still searching, they reached his small apartment building at last. It looked ordinary, boring, safe. That was what he liked about it. Tonight, it became something else, a hiding place. He unlocked the door, held it open, and nodded. "Come inside," he said. She stepped over the threshold slowly, as if entering a new world. Behind them, out in the night, the metal footsteps began again. Daniel closed the door behind them and locked it. The sound of the lock was small, but it felt important. It felt like a line he had just crossed, a promise he had just made without saying a word. His apartment was not big, a small couch, a small kitchen, a table with one chair, shelves with dusty books he meant to read someday. Nothing special, nothing like spaceships or alien labs. But to the little alien girl, it looked like another planet. She stood in the middle of the room and turned, slowly looking at everything with wide eyes. Her glowing lines were dim now, like tired fireflies under her skin. "You can sit," Daniel said gently. She nodded and sat carefully on the edge of the couch, like she was afraid she might break it. He went into the kitchen, put down the grocery bags, and took out bread, fruit, and a bottle of water. He placed them on the table. Her eyes followed his hands the whole time. "You're hungry," he said. It was not a question. She looked down, almost embarrassed. "Yes, then eat." She moved to the table and took the bread with both hands, as if it were something holy. She did not grab or swallow fast like someone greedy. She ate slowly, politely, chewing every bite. But Daniel could see she was starving. Every piece of food was life for her. He poured her a glass of water. She held it up, watching the light pass through it like it was magic. Then she drank, a soft sigh leaving her lips. After a few minutes, color, or whatever counted as color for her, seemed to come back to her face. "What happened to you?" he asked softly. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "I was born on a research ship, not on a world, not in a home." She touched the glowing lines on her arms. "They made us special. They changed our blood." "Your blood?" Daniel asked. She nodded. "The machines hear it," he frowned. "Hear it?" "When I am near machines," she said, searching for simple words, "they feel me. They want to listen. I can speak to them without voice. I can open doors, stop engines, wake systems. They use me to test weapons, to break codes, to force other ships to sleep." She did not sound proud. She sounded tired. "They called us assets," she continued. "Not children. They said names are for people. We were numbers." Daniel sat down across from her. His hands were tight on his knees. "So you ran," he said. "Yes." A tiny, brave word. "How?" She looked toward the window, as if seeing the memory outside in the sky. There was an accident. A storm of stones in space. The ship shook. Lights failed. Machines screamed in my head. Her fingers curled. They tried to make me stop the storm. Too much, too fast. My mind burned. She closed her eyes. "So I pushed back. Against them?" Daniel asked. "Against everything," she whispered. Doors opened. Shields fell. "I think I broke parts of the ship. I did not mean to, but I wanted to be free. An escape pod fell toward your world. I was inside. When I woke, I was alone. Daniel thought of her on dark streets, hungry, hunted, afraid. A child who had crossed the stars just to find herself hiding behind a mailbox staring at groceries. He felt something heavy in his throat. "Do you have a name?" he asked softly. She hesitated. "I had one," she said. "My mother whispered it once before they took her away. But saying it makes them find me easier. Names hold paths." He nodded slowly. "Then don't say it," he said. "You don't have to tell me." She looked surprised again. "Most people want names first." "I want you safe first," he replied. For a moment, she simply watched him, as if trying to understand this strange earth creature who chose kindness instead of questions. Then she touched her chest lightly. "There is more," she said. "Hunters follow my blood. It shines in ways you cannot see. Every time I use my gift, the shine grows louder. They track it, so when the lights flicker," Daniel began. "That is me," she finished. "I do not mean to. It leaks out when I am scared or tired." As if to prove her point, the lamp in the corner blinked once, then came back on. She winced like someone hearing loud noise. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I break things." Daniel shook his head. "You don't break things," he said. "They broke your peace." She blinked fast as if new tears wanted to come. But she didn't know if she was allowed to cry here. He stood and went to the closet. He brought back a blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders. She touched it gently like it was some soft animal. "No bright labs," he said quietly. "No cold hands. No collectors. Not here." "There is danger," she said. "For you." He gave a small laugh. "Too late," he said. "Danger already knocked on my door the moment you said my name." She smiled for the first time. It was small, crooked, unsure, but real. The glowing lines on her skin softened to a warm, sleepy light. Outside, far away in the sky, a low hum began, like a ship searching, like a storm of metal. Inside the tiny apartment, a child from the stars closed her eyes. And for the first time in a very long time, she slept. Morning came slowly. Light crept through the thin curtains and painted soft lines across the floor. For a moment, Daniel forgot everything. He heard birds. He smelled coffee. It felt like any other normal day. Then he saw the small shape sleeping on his couch under the blanket, the alien girl. Her glowing lines were faint now, barely visible, like distant stars at dawn. She slept curled up, one hand under her cheek, the other holding the edge of the blanket as if it might be taken away. She did not move. Except for a small tremble from some dream she could not escape. Daniel watched her quietly. He thought about work, bills, normal life, and how far away all of that seemed now. Something inside him had changed. He could not go back to before. There was only after now, and after included a lost child from another world. She woke suddenly. Her eyes opened wide, alert, like someone used to running the moment they woke up. Then she saw him and relaxed a little. "You are still here," she whispered. "Of course I am," he said. "Where else would I go?" She looked confused, like she honestly expected him to be gone. On the ship, maybe people left, or were taken, or changed. Humans confused her because they stayed. He handed her a bowl of cereal. She looked at it like it was a puzzle, then copied the way he used the spoon. Milk dripped down her chin and she giggled softly at herself, almost surprised that she could laugh. That sound made the room feel warmer. After breakfast, Daniel took an old hoodie from his closet and gave it to her. It was too big, the sleeves covering her hands completely, but she seemed to like that. She pulled the hood up and stood in front of the mirror, tilting her head. "I look less like me," she said. "That's the point," he smiled. "We don't want the hunters to notice glowing lines." She nodded, serious again. "They are still near. I can feel their machines breathing." The way she said it made his skin crawl. He turned on the small TV. Every channel talked about strange lights in the sky, power failures, unusual aircraft. The news host smiled like everything was calm, but there was fear behind the smiles. "They are searching," she said quietly. He turned the TV off. "We'll keep you hidden," he said. "I'll get you some real clothes, maybe a hat, something normal." "You will help me more?" she asked, almost afraid to believe it. "Yes," he said simply. "Why?" She whispered. He had to think for a second. There were many answers, none sounded big enough. "Because you're a kid," he said at last. "And kids should be safe." Something in her face softened, like a knot inside her chest untied a little. They spent the day planning without calling it planning. He taught her simple things: how to open the fridge, how to use a light switch, how to turn water on and off. Each new thing filled her with wonder. She touched everything with careful fingers, as if the whole world might break or might love her back, and she wasn't sure which. Sometimes the lights flickered when she laughed too hard. Sometimes the radio buzzed when she was scared. Once, the toaster clicked on by itself, and she covered her mouth in shock. "I did not mean," she began. "It's okay," Daniel said. "We'll figure it out." Outside, sirens went by more than usual. He went out in the afternoon and came back with a backpack, a hat, snacks, and a cheap pair of shoes. She tried them on proudly. She looked like a very small, slightly strange human kid now. But night came again. And with night came the sound. A deep, slow thumping in the sky, like a heart made of metal. The window glass hummed softly. The girl stiffened, her glowing lines brightening through the fabric of the hoodie. "They are close," she whispered. "They smell my signal." Daniel closed the blinds. "Can you hide it?" She bit her lip. "Yes, but it hurts." He shook his head immediately. "Then don't." Her eyes widened. "They told me pain does not matter." "They were wrong," he said. "Pain matters." No one had ever said that to her before. For the first time, she believed it might be true. They sat in the dim room together, listening to the distant machines. Daniel felt fear too. Real fear. But his fear pointed him forward, not backward. He was not going to run from this. He was not going to open the door and say, "She went that way." Humans don't run when a child stands behind them. A shadow moved in the hallway outside, then another. Heavy steps stopped right in front of his door. The metal knock that came next was not like any human knock he had ever heard. The girl grabbed his sleeve. "They found us," she breathed. Daniel stood very still. The door shook again, harder this time. He looked at her, small, scared, wrapped in a hoodie 2 sizes too big, and felt something fierce and bright rise in his chest. Whatever was on the other side of that door thought it was the hunter. It was about to meet a human. The door shook a 3rd time, not a polite knock, a demand, a warning, a promise that the thing outside did not wait long for answers. Daniel's heartbeat hammered in his ears. The little alien girl pressed close to his side, her small fingers gripping his sleeve so tightly that the fabric twisted. Her glowing lines pulsed fast beneath the big hoodie, like frightened lightning trying to hide in cloth. "Stay behind me," he whispered. She opened her mouth to protest, then stopped. She nodded once, very small. The door lock glowed red, not from heat, from scanning. A thin slice of light crawled across the wood as if tasting it. Then the handle turned by itself. Daniel grabbed the nearest thing he could find, not a weapon, just a heavy lamp, and raised it in shaking hands. He knew the lamp would not stop metal giants. But he also knew he would not stand empty-handed. The door opened. Cold night air rushed in. 3 armored hunters filled the doorway, blocking out the hall like a wall of moving steel. Their masks glowed with cruel red lines. The drone hovered above their shoulders, humming softly, its red beam dancing inside the apartment like a curious snake. One hunter stepped forward. He spoke in that same echoing language from the street, heavy, sharp, made of commands, then switched to broken earth language in a flat, unfriendly voice. Unit detected. Return asset. Daniel swallowed hard. She's not an asset, he said. She's a child. The hunter tilted his head, as if confused why this human's words mattered. His mask lights flickered. Child. Irrelevant. Asset. Returned. He moved to push Daniel aside. Daniel did not move. He planted his feet and stood in the doorway, hands shaking but firm, like a tree that knew the wind was stronger, but refused to bow anyway. You'll have to go through me, he said. The girl gasped softly. The hunter paused for one strange second, almost amused. Human is fragile, he said. Human breaks. Maybe, Daniel said, voice steady now, but humans also. Fight! The hunter reached out one metal hand. Daniel swung the lamp. The lamp hit the armor with a loud clang and broke into pieces, sending sparks across the floor. It did nothing to the hunter, except surprise him. No one in his world had ever thought to fight him with something as ridiculous and human as a lamp. That heartbeat of surprise was enough. Now, Daniel whispered. The girl closed her eyes. She did not scream. She did not wave her arms. She just focused. The glowing lines under her skin burst into bright silver light, shining through. The cloth like stars waking up. The lights in the room flickered wildly. The drone gave a sharp electronic cry and dropped to the floor like a stone. The hunters staggered as their armor suits jerked, froze and twitched. Symbols on their chests flashed like panicked birds. Their machines were hearing her. Stop them, she whispered, not to Daniel, not to herself, to the metal. Sleep. The armor locked. The hunters tried to move but could not. Their arms were trapped mid-motion, their legs stiff like statues. One of them managed to raise his weapon an inch. Daniel kicked it away with everything he had. Pain shot through his foot, but the weapon skidded under the couch, out of reach. The girl opened her eyes again. The bright lines faded to a dim glow. Her body shook with effort. She looked dizzy, like she had just held up the sky for too long. Daniel caught her before she fell. You did great, he said. I did small, she whispered weakly. Big would hurt you. He smiled. Small was perfect. Alarms began to echo from outside. Through the window, the sky flashed with distant blue and red lights. Not police lights, not anything human. The air felt heavy, like the city itself was being watched from above. He looked at the frozen hunters. They would not stay frozen forever. We have to go, he said. She nodded, still tired but brave. They called the ship, she whispered. The big one. He grabbed the backpack he had packed earlier without admitting to himself he had been packing it. Water, snacks, a blanket, a map, a strange kind of hope. He pulled the hat lower over her forehead and zipped the hoodie to hide the glow as much as possible. They slipped past the locked hunters into the hallway. The building was quiet, too quiet. As they reached the street, Daniel saw shadows moving across the clouds like dark whales. Then he saw it. The mother ship, huge, silent, blocking the stars. It hovered above the city without sound, without engines, like a mountain floating in the sky. Its bottom glowed with slow pulsing lines that looked too much like the ones under the girl's skin. People on the street pointed, shouted, recorded with shaking phones. The girl's hand tightened in Daniel's. They will pull us up, she said in a small voice. They always do. A beam of pale light spread slowly across the city like a searching fingertip. Daniel looked at the beam, then at her, then at the sky. He was only a man who had been carrying groceries last night. Now he was standing between a child and the galaxy. Asterisk, the pale light swept across the city. It washed over rooftops, bridges, cars, and frightened faces staring upward. When it touched Daniel and the little alien girl, The air around them changed. It felt thick, like invisible hands were lifting them without permission. The ground slipped away beneath their feet. "Don't be afraid," Daniel said, even though he was afraid too. She did not scream. She just held his hand tighter. The city became small beneath them, a map of lights and roads. The mothership grew larger and larger until it filled the sky, until it was no longer above anything. It was everything. They passed through a circle of glowing metal and into the ship. Gravity returned. Cold air touched their faces. They stood in a wide silver hall so clean it almost hurt to look at. Everything shone. Everything hummed softly, like the ship itself was alive and listening. She shivered. "I remember this place," she whispered. "It smells like fear." Figures stepped out of hidden doors, not hunters now. Scientists. Commanders, tall beings in white and gray with long fingers and unreadable eyes. Their clothes were smooth, their voices quiet, but the danger in them was sharper than any blade. They looked at the girl first, then at Daniel as if he were a strange bug that came in by accident. One of them spoke gently, too gently. "Asset recovered," he said. The word hit harder than any shout. Daniel stepped in front of her without thinking. "She's not an asset," he said. "Say girl, say child, say anything human." The commander blinked slowly, as if Daniel had suggested the sky should be square. "Her biology is property of the collective," he replied calmly. "Her mind is interface class. Her value is strategic." The girl's shoulders sank like she had carried those words many times before. She did not cry. Crying took energy, and they had taken that from her long ago. "We will remove the human." Another voice said, "He is noise in the system." Two guards moved toward Daniel. He raised his fists. His fists meant nothing against their technology, but they meant everything to him. He would not step aside. He would not give them even one easy second. "Wait," the girl said softly. Everyone stopped. She stepped around Daniel and faced the commanders with quiet strength. "Do not hurt him," she said. "He gave me food. He gave me blanket. He gave me name feeling." "Attachment interferes with function," a scientist replied. "We will correct it." "How?" Daniel demanded. The answer came without shame, memory extraction, emotion removal, controlled obedience. The process is painless for observers. For observers, not for her. Daniel felt anger like fire in his bones. "She's not a weapon," he said. "She's a kid who likes cereal and laughs at milk on her chin. You're turning a child into a machine." The commander tilted his head again. "Children become adults," he said. "Adults serve purpose. This is purpose." The girl looked up at Daniel. Her eyes were bright, but steady. "They will do it," she whispered. "They always do it, to many like me." "Not this time," he said. "You cannot stop them," she said. "They have ships, they have labs, they have laws." He shook his head. "I have something else." "What?" she asked. "Being human." He said. It sounded small. It wasn't. The scientists activated a high platform in the center of the room. Lights circled it like rings of a cold sun. Machines woke up, and the humming grew louder. The ship itself seemed to lean closer, listening to what would happen next. "Step forward," a voice commanded. The girl did. Not because she obeyed, because she was tired of running. Daniel grabbed her hand. "You don't have to." She smiled a sad, beautiful little smile. "I am done being chased," she said, "but I am not done choosing." Then she stepped onto the platform. The machines wrapped her in light. Symbols spun in the air around her like bright chains. She closed her eyes, and the glowing lines under her skin blazed like a small sun. The scientists watched their screens with hungry calm. "Begin reset." One of them said. The ship shivered. Not from engines, from her. Her mind reached through metal corridors, into wires, into power cores, into sleeping systems that had never been spoken to softly before. She did not shout at the ship. She did not attack. She asked. Please, she whispered inside the metal. Stop hurting children. The lights flickered. The rings of energy broke. Alarms screamed across the hall. Screens filled with symbols that looked like fear. Doors unlocked somewhere far away. Cages opened. Machines shut down not from damage, but from refusal. The commanders stared, finally shaken. What is she doing? One cried. Daniel knew. She was choosing not to be weapon, not to be asset. To be a child with power and a heart, both together. The ship's voice, cold and old, spoke for the first time. Primary directive reevaluated, it said. Asset status, invalid. Sentience rights engaged. The scientists went pale. The girl opened her eyes. She looked at Daniel first. Am I allowed, she asked softly, to be me? He did not trust his voice, so he only nodded. The restraints of light vanished. The commanders could not move. Not because she froze them, because the ship itself no longer obeyed them. The galaxy had just met something new, a little alien girl. With a human idea of right and wrong, silence filled the great hall, not empty silence. Powerful silence. The kind of silence that comes when something very big has changed, and everyone feels it at the same time. The scientists did not shout now. They did not give orders. They simply stared because the ship no longer listened to them. Lights that once obeyed their hands now followed the slow, gentle glow beneath the little alien girl's skin. She stepped down from the platform. Her legs were weak, but her eyes were strong. She walked toward Daniel as though the whole ship had become a hallway made only for her. When she reached him, she took his hand again. It felt different this time. Before, her hand had shaken. Now it was steady. I chose, she whispered. I know, he said softly. The ship spoke again, its voice echoing from every wall. Containment. Releases complete. Weapon systems disabled. Crew authority suspended until ethical review. The commanders tried to move. Some tried to reach hidden controls. Nothing answered them. Doors slid open across the hall. Other beings stepped out. Tall. Aliens with tired faces. Small ones with scars. Different shapes, different colors, different worlds, but the same look in their eyes. They had all been assets once. Now they were simply free. A small creature with 4 eyes began to cry. Not loud. Grateful. One of the scientists whispered in shock. The human corrupted the interface. Daniel laughed once, tired and warm. No, he said. She learned kindness. The girl squeezed his hand. From you, she said. He shook his head. You already had it. You just needed someone to say it mattered. The ship turned slowly. In the sky outside, visible through wide windows that showed the curve of Earth below, blue oceans, white clouds. The small shining world that had accidentally become the place where she found a blanket, cereal, and a name. Feeling. Where will you go now? Daniel asked. She looked at Earth for a long time. I want small things, she said slowly. Warm food, soft blankets. People who smile when they see me. No numbers, no cages, maybe school. She tilted her head. Do humans have school? He smiled. Too much. I would like too much, she said. One commander found his voice. You cannot remain on this planet. Your mind class is strategic. You are dangerous. She turned and faced him. I am dangerous, she said calmly, to those who hurt children. He had no answer. The ship spoke again. New directive, protection. Not exploitation. Return liberated miners to safe locations. Begin diplomatic contact. Daniel blinked. Diplomatic? The girl nodded. They will talk now. Not take. He thought about how this all began. Grocery bags cutting into his fingers. A quiet street. A small shape behind a mailbox. He had only offered an apple, a blanket, space on his couch. He had not saved the galaxy. He had just refused to walk away. The ship lowered them gently back to Earth later, in a beam of soft light that felt warm this time, not cold. They landed in an empty park at dawn. The air smelled of wet grass and new sunlight. Birds sang like nothing strange had happened, like the universe had not just changed its rules. She stood in the middle of the park and spun slowly, her hoodie too big, her shoes slightly loose, her eyes full of sky. "Is this home?" she asked. "For now," Daniel said. "Until you want somewhere bigger, or smaller, or both." She thought about that, then nodded. "Home is where somebody stays." She said, "You stayed." He felt his throat tighten. "Yeah," he said. "I stayed." They walked together toward the city. People would have questions, governments would call, news would shout. But between all that noise, a very simple truth would remain. A child who should have been a weapon chose to be a person and a human. Man who should have kept his head down decided not to. As they reached a small grocery store, she stopped and laughed, pointing at the fruit through the window. "Those are the first stars I ate," she said, remembering the apple. He laughed too. "Want another one?" She nodded eagerly. He bought apples. He bought bread. This time, he bought 2 of everything. When they left the store, she carried one of the bags. It was too big for her, and she held it with both hands, very serious, very proud. Someone passing by smiled at them. 2 ordinary figures on an ordinary street. But the universe knew better. Daniel looked down at her and said, "We should think of a name for you. A real one, your name." She looked ahead, eyes bright, steps light. "I will choose it," she said, "because I choose me." They walked on. Above clouds, far away, the great ship drifted in peace, no longer a cage but a guardian, and down on Earth, on a normal morning, with grocery bags and warm light and a girl from the stars smiling up at him, Daniel realized something. Sometimes humanity is not loud. Sometimes humanity is carrying groceries in one hand and the future in the other, and refusing to let go.